Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
What's going on, guys? It's Luke22SV here, and we're here for the third round of the Mick Schumacher career mode of Season 2 for the Chinese Grand Prix. And as you can see there, we've got some upgrades that have put us up into 5th place at the moment. So we've overtaken Force India and Haas, and we're in a good position then heading into the Chinese Grand Prix after a decent result in both the first 2 races of the season in both Australia and Bahrain. As you can see, Renault have improved a lot as well. Force India are improving a little bit as well. So we're getting 3 teams closing in on the top 3. Mercedes are obviously falling back as well. So this is looking good for us. McLaren are falling back from the rest of the midfield, and Williams are just a mile away. So we don't have to worry about those guys closing in on us anytime soon. But we move then on into qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix. What can we do with these upgrades? They should have helped a little bit. This time last season we struggled at China. I think we were in a wet qualifying, if I can remember rightly. But a great track this is. One of the most underrated tracks on the calendar. And we'll come onto our lap then for the for the Chinese Grand Prix. Coming into the first corner. Nice and up on our previous lap time already. Which was a decent lap time, which put us into P6. Now, remember, this track has thrown some great races in the past. Rubens Barrichello winning the maiden race in 2004. Of course, the 2006 race as well, with Michael Schumacher defying the odds to win a race. One of his greatest drives and his last win, of course, in his career. 2007 provided a monumental race as well, with Raikkonen winning and Hamilton beaching his car in the gravel. Of course, we've had 2009 where Sebastian Vettel got his maiden win, for Red Bull rather, and it was there's been some crazy races. 2010 where Jenson Button won for McLaren. That was a hell of a race as well. Then 2011 Hamilton overtaking Vettel with a few laps to go in a slower car as well. And of course 2012 we've got Rosberg's maiden win for Mercedes first ever win. Could have been a 1-2 that day as well had Schumacher's car had all 4 tyres fitted correctly in the pits. It would have been a good race for Schumacher, and he would have had a podium as well. But coming to the end of this lap then, we got a good lap here. Poor exit out of that corner, really. Could have been an even better lap, but it's going to be good enough then to get us into a good position. If we can get a better lap than what we've got already, this can be good. And it's going to be good enough for P4 temporarily, which is good enough for us to end the session with that. And we're going to end up being P6 on the grid then, with our teammate in P8. So Sauber looking really strong this weekend. Again, with those upgrades helping us immensely. Both the Red Bulls looking out the front row like they did in Australia. So Ferrari, who looked out the front row in Bahrain, down to row 2 now. So Red Bull looking stronger than Ferrari this weekend. Mercedes not looking so strong with Bottas down in P9. Renault and Force India also looking pretty good. They're mixing up with Mercedes as well. So Haas, Toro Rosso and McLaren in that lower midfield. And then you've got Williams, who are dreadful. They're miles off the cars in front of them. I think Stroll, who was 19th, was 8 tenths off of Van Dorn in 18th, which was just shocking. Williams need to sort that out as we head into the race then for the Chinese Grand Prix. What can we do then from P6, which is great qualifying for us. We're delighted with that. It was come towards the Chinese Grand Prix then. Last season we had an incident with Fernando Alonso which ruined our race. We had to go back to the pits. It ended up being a disappointing race for us. We just finished low down the order. But now then our concentration turns towards this race and what we can do in Season 2. And it's going to be a good potential for a good race here, with both the Red Bulls looking out the front row, with Ricciardo on pole, Vettel 3rd, Raikkonen 4th. And it's going to be Hamilton 5th and myself, Schumacher 6th. Hulkenberg 7th, Leclerc 8th, Bottas 9th, Perez 10th, and then Sainz and Ocon. So Force India, Renault and Mercedes and Sauber. And you've got the McLaren, Haas, Red Bull, Toro Rosso, and then McLaren as well. And you've got Williams as well on the back row. So you can see how far he was off of Van Dorn's time there. So shocking for Williams. But we move on to the 5 red lights then for the start of the Chinese Grand Prix. What can we do from P6 on the grid? There's lights down, away we go. It's a fairly poor start from us actually. Hulkenberg and Leclerc getting a better start to go into turn 1. We're side by side with Leclerc as we go into turn 1. We get nicely actually overtaken back, and we stay ahead of him. We stay ahead of Hulkenberg too. We see Vettel ahead of us getting barged out of the way by Hamilton and Raikkonen. So Vettel losing out to Hamilton and Raikkonen. So we actually get a better exit out of that corner, and we're now ahead of Vettel. We're up into P5, so we've gained a place at the start then. We've got Raikkonen battling heavily with Hamilton in front of us. who's going to come out on top of that. It actually looks like Hamilton's come out on top. So Hamilton starting P5 now up to P3. So great work from Hamilton to get himself up in front of the Ferraris really. And ourselves, we've got ourselves in front of one of the Ferraris and almost getting ourselves in front of the other Ferrari, Raikkonen. But instead having to settle for P5. And that's a good start for us. We head towards the end of this sector, and then we're heading onto the back straight and see if we can actually keep up with Raikkonen and see if we can keep up with Hamilton. At the moment, it looks like Hamilton's actually got a better race car than he has a qualifying car. Mercedes looking fairly average in qualifying, but looking still fairly strong in the race. So you can see Hamilton's actually looking pretty good. He's fighting with Raikkonen nice and cleanly, and he's got himself under P3. Bottas still not really with it. At the start of Season 2, he wasn't really with it in Season 1. So you can see Raikkonen now challenging Hamilton for P3 into the hairpin. We now look to join the battle and see if we can pick up the pieces on these guys. Raikkonen and Hamilton still staying line as third as we head onto the end of this lap. We're going to end this lap in P5, and Max Verstappen's going to end this lap in P1 because he's managed to overtake his teammate. As you can see, we can look back to the start then for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's a fairly poor start, and you can see three abreast with two three abreast going into turn 1, both the Ferraris and the Mercedes of Hamilton, and you can see both the Saubers and the Renault going three abreast into turn 1 as well. You can see Raikkonen and Hamilton forcing Vettel down. That allows us to get past Vettel as well as he gets a poor exit out of that corner, and then we passed him nice and easily. Hulkenberg's actually come out on top of those two as well. So Hulkenberg getting past Leclerc at the start, ourselves getting past Vettel at the start. So Leclerc's losing places, we've gained places, which is all we need to do for ourselves to make ourselves look good. But we're doing our best for the team. Leclerc, who got the better strategy in the last race, we're looking to prove a point here really and stay ahead of him in the championship. It's just looking close between myself and Leclerc this season. And as you can see, Verstappen leading the way from Ricciardo, from Hamilton, from Raikkonen, from Schumacher, from Vettel, from Hulkenberg, and then Leclerc. And it looks like a Force India, which could be Perez, because Perez tends to be ahead of Ocon on the career mode as well. We head on to lap 2, start of lap 2. You can see Raikkonen and Hamilton ahead of us. We spot the opportunity to dive down the inside of Raikkonen, and well, he doesn't really see us coming. He turns in a little bit, but no harm done. We move up into P4. Nice little move then on the inside of Raikkonen to turn 2 as we stay ahead of him. Now we've got Hamilton ahead of us. Can we fight with Hamilton, or we're going to have to defend from Raikkonen? As you can see, Raikkonen's proximity arrow was looking to sneak past us then into turn 6, but we decided to stay ahead of him, and we move on then into the next section of this track, the long speed section, which probably is our lowest point at the moment because the Mercedes and the Ferrari still have better aero and chassis than us. We're still trying to upgrade as much as possible to actually fight with these guys, but at the moment we have to settle for what we've got, and we're just trying to fight with the Mercedes and Ferraris. But the Ferrari and Mercedes is still a much better race car than the Sauber is, so we're going to do our best to stay ahead of Ferrari and see if we can challenge Mercedes and Hamilton, because we could be fighting with these guys in the constructors. And Ferrari's had such a poor start with Raikkonen ended up retiring in round 1, along with Vettel retiring in round 1, and I think Raikkonen retired in Bahrain as well, and Vettel also had his issues with his engine in Bahrain. So we're coming towards the end of this lap, and if you just heard on the radio there, the engineers just giving us a strategy call to pit this lap. We are going to pit this lap, and we're going to take that option to take the undercut on Hamilton, and we're going to pit on through these soft tyres and see if we can get the undercut on Hamilton, because these ultra softs do wear quite quickly around here, so we're going to have to watch out, and hopefully this can put us into a podium position, and that will be our second podium of our career. Of course, our first podium came in the Paul Ricard race last season, and that would be looking to replicate a performance like that. Going on to these soft tyres then, see if we can get the undercut. We come out of the pits then and see how quick we can go on this outlap. We get these tyres and we're foot down. We want to go out of the pits, see what we can do and get the undercut. I'm going to have to warm these tyres up quickly to see if we can actually keep up. We almost run off the track actually coming out of the pits, which would have been a bit of a disaster, but not to worry, we do not run off the track, and we're on to now the end of lap 4, coming on to lap 5. Got ourselves now going along the start finish straight, and it's going to be Hamilton that's in the pits, and we actually see, if you can see there, Hamilton's just behind us. We've just overtaken Hamilton, and we're also ahead of Leclerc, but Leclerc, more importantly, is ahead of Hamilton. So for whatever reason, Hamilton's had problems in the pit lane, which has allowed Leclerc to get past him, and Leclerc now then is up into P12, which could be a net P4, because we could be in a net P3 if we've got past Hamilton. So it just depends where Raikkonen is, because Vettel's also behind Hamilton as well. So it's looking good for Sauber at the moment. We could get another strong performance like we did in Australia, but it could be an even better result here because we could be both 3rd and 4th, but like we were 4th and 5th in Australia. But we'll see what we can do, whether we can actually get the undercut on Raikkonen, because Raikkonen is in a very strong car as well. The Ferrari is a strong car, it's just not been very reliable so far this season. And of course Raikkonen ended up having his incident with myself in Australia, which led to him retiring, and Ferrari needing to pick up as many points as possible to stay in the title fight. And both Raikkonen and Vettel want to challenge for the title as well, I'm sure. But at the moment it looks like it's a one-way fight between Red Bull and themselves, with Verstappen and Ricciardo probably fighting each other for the title. But it looks like Verstappen's the favourite at the moment because he won in Australia. He looks stronger. I think he might have finished 2nd in Bahrain to Hamilton winning, but he's currently leading the Chinese Grand Prix as well, so we're going to have to look out for that. But coming on to the end of this lap then, we've got Raikkonen who will be in the pits, and both the Red Bulls will be in front of us, so we're not going to be able to challenge the Red Bulls and not be able to undercut them. As we come across the start-finish straight, a little jump there between clips, and we move on then, and we're actually out ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. So great result for us. We're ahead of Raikkonen, and we've got Leclerc behind us, so that's great news for us. But moving on around the next few corners, we've got Leclerc who's in front of Raikkonen. How did that happen? And that's great news for Sauber. We've managed to perform really well in the pit stops there to get ourselves into P3 and P4 when we were originally P4, and I think P7 even Leclerc was. So great news for us. And this yellow flag again, who could that be before? Surely it's not for another Ferrari failure, is it? And I think it actually is. There's a Ferrari on the mini-map slowing down, so that is a disaster for whoever that is. Is it Vettel or is it Raikkonen? We'll find out shortly. It's Vettel again. So Vettel having 3 races in a row with 3 different engine problems. He retired in Australia, he had problems in Bahrain, and he's retired again in China. So a complete disaster for Vettel. But here's Raikkonen also having a bit of a bad day, who's come out behind Leclerc, so he's going to have to get past him and get back into the podium. So Ferrari still without a podium at this stage. Raikkonen is going to have to work really hard to get into a podium slot. Now we are on board with Raikkonen's teammate Vettel. What happened to Vettel? Why has he got out of the race? He's okay, you can hear him slowing down now. It doesn't look like he's got a problem. Well, it does look like he's got a problem. He's slowing down, and now he does look like he's going to be pulling off, and he is out of the race. So Vettel with another issue which led to him retiring. A complete disaster for Ferrari again. Doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with Ferrari, but we're moving on to lap 7 now. We're ahead of Leclerc, we're ahead of Raikkonen. Raikkonen is now going to be chasing Leclerc. Verstappen's now in P2, so as I said a minute ago, Verstappen was leading the race, but it's Ricciardo now leading the race. So it could be really close between the Red Bull guys for the duration of the season. Who knows who will come out on top between those 2 guys who will be fighting for the championship. But speaking of this race, there's 2 guys fighting for position, and that is Leclerc and Raikkonen fighting for P4. And here we are with Leclerc, and Raikkonen is behind him. So can Leclerc keep hold of P4? Because the longer Leclerc keeps Raikkonen behind, the longer we have a chance of staying on the podium. So can Leclerc play the team game in this race like he didn't in Australia? He didn't really play much of a team game, but Australia is not now. China is the race we're focusing on now, and Raikkonen then going past him into the hairpin. So can Leclerc keep ahead of him? Leclerc fights round the outside, and Raikkonen seems to have got ahead, but a little bit of a better exit from Leclerc, heading towards the last corner, and Leclerc is actually still ahead of him, heading into the final corner and onto the front straight. Can Leclerc stay ahead? Raikkonen's now ahead, going towards turn 1. Leclerc's behind him. He's going to have slipstream. He's going to look to make a move back down the inside of Raikkonen. Great racing this is between these 2. We're heading into turn 1. Leclerc has now looked like he's now almost got ahead, but Raikkonen stays ahead, and Leclerc's still fighting around the outside. So Raikkonen's now got ahead, but can Leclerc fight him onto this straight? But Raikkonen, we're looking on board to him. You see Leclerc sizing up a move down the outside into the hairpin, and indeed he does make the move. Now he is trying to make the move, and he gets the better exit, and he's got a better line heading towards the long left-hander, and he's going to actually be able to stay ahead of Raikkonen. So this is great news for us, and great news for Sauber, because we now pulling away from these guys who are fighting hard. And as you can see, in the space of a lap, Hamilton and Hülkenberg right on the gearbox of Raikkonen. So bad news for Leclerc is that if he loses out to Raikkonen, he may lose out to Hamilton, he may lose out to Hulkenberg, and may lose out to Valtteri Bottas as well. As you can see us going through the screen there, you can see the two Force Indias in the background. Could they be a threat to these guys at the end of this race? Who knows at this stage? But Raikkonen is coming around onto the back straight, onto the main DRS straight, on one of the longest straights in the calendar this is. So this is a good opportunity for Raikkonen to get past Charles Leclerc. And can he do that now with DRS wide open? We look on board to the back of Leclerc, and Leclerc's got defenceless now. So Raikkonen gets past him. It doesn't seem like Leclerc will be able to fight anymore, and Raikkonen now can focus on catching up to us. But it's a great little battle there for Raikkonen and Leclerc. It helps us a lot to stay into P3. As you can see in front of him, there's no sign of me in my car. So we're looking pretty solid, and we can just hopefully focus on getting to the end of this race then in P3 and focusing on keeping Raikkonen behind us, because Leclerc then is now not being able to fight back. Leclerc had DRS going on to the start and finish straight, wasn't able to get close enough, so maybe he used up all his ERS. And as you can see, there's ourselves going towards turn 6. Raikkonen was a little bit further behind, and you can barely see Raikkonen. As you can see, a slight image of Raikkonen coming into the background there, but we're skipping to 2 laps to go. A lot of nothing really happened. So Raikkonen's only 2 seconds behind, but 2 seconds behind, that's quite a big gap in Formula 1, and we're quite comfortable where we are. So we're looking comfortable for a podium. We've just got to bring the car home in these last couple of laps to see if we can keep hold of P3, which would be great news for us. Raikkonen's now P4, Hamilton's actually got P5, so Hamilton's overtaken Leclerc. Leclerc's now having to defend from Hulkenberg, and I think Bottas is behind him, and the two Force Indias a little bit further back, so the Force Indias weren't able to compete, and we a little bit onto the grass there. So we're just making sure we don't make a mistake like we did in Australia, which led to Bottas almost getting past us. If we didn't have that collision with Bottas, where he ran into the side of us, and not anyone's fault, it's just that I was in the middle of the track and there was nothing I could have done. But if we do end up spinning or having an issue, Raikkonen will definitely try and pounce, because this track is very wide. Australia isn't that wide, so if I do spin, Raikkonen should find his way past me, and that's not really what we want. And Raikkonen's closed in a little bit on that lap, because we've pitted earlier. We pitted 2 laps earlier than Raikkonen, so Raikkonen's on slightly fresher tyres. We're on slightly worn rubber now as we head onto the final lap of this race very shortly. And we've got 1 lap of fuel remaining, thanks to our engineer telling us there. But the 2 Red Bulls still fighting for position. As you can see, Verstappen and Ricciardo switching positions there. So Verstappen briefly led the race as well, but Ricciardo then leads going on to the last lap. Raikkonen's behind us. Can we keep hold of P3 then? This would be an awesome result for us. Podium result in just the 3rd race of the season, proving salvage potential at the start of the season with a bit of a lucky result in Australia. We still had good pace in Australia, don't get me wrong, but this is a true performance, a true test, and we've actually got proof that we can fight with these guys as well, because Leclerc, he was able to fight with Hamilton and Raikkonen for a lot of this race, although he has fallen down a bit now, but it's still looking pretty good for us. But Raikkonen now 1.5 seconds behind. He has to get 5 attempts now in the 2nd sector to get DRS to be even attempt an overtake, so he doesn't look close enough. But we've gone a little bit deep there, a little bit of a slide on these worn tyres, so he may have gained a little bit of time there through this sector to come towards the sector, come towards the DRS detection. How close is Raikkonen to us now? We now have a look, and he's under a second, so he's gained 7 tenths then. And you can see that proximity arrow is actually in the mirror now, so we got to defend from Kimi Raikkonen if we can. We get all the ERS we can available to us. Can we defend P3 from Kimi Raikkonen going towards the end of this race? What can we do here? It's a complete well, we don't know what we can do, but can we get into the final corner of this final lap ahead of Raikkonen? It looks like we can. Raikkonen is unable to get past us, but we are able to keep P3. Maybe another lap of this race and we wouldn't be able to. Ricciardo is the race winner. He crosses the line in front, and Verstappen is second, but we are going to cross the line in 3rd, and we're going to take home that podium finish, and it's a great result for us. It's a podium, a 2nd podium of our career mode, and it's a great result for Mick Schumacher to take home. But Raikkonen, Ferrari still unable to get a podium, so we've got a podium this season before Ferrari were able to. Again, a huge disaster for Sebastian Vettel. Raikkonen had a bit of a disaster. It could have been an easy 3rd place for him, but he had a poor start. but Red Bull will be delighted again, looking strong. They're going to be out front in the career mode. They're going to be leading the constructors by quite a bit now, because Mercedes now dropping points to the likes of Renault and Mercedes as well. But look where we are on the podium. Ricciardo delighted with that, after he had some problems in Australia, which led to him finishing behind Hamilton. So the championship's going to hot up between Ricciardo and Verstappen as we head into Azerbaijan next weekend, which should be an interesting race. We don't know who's going to come out on top there, because it's a fairly topsy-turvy race that is as well. So we'll end this episode here pretty much, with just a minute left to spare. But moving on to the end of the episode, we're P3. So let's have a look at the standings then, with both the Force Indias picking up points as well, 9th and 10th. Bottas down in 8th, Hulkenberg was 7th. Our teammate finished 6th in the end, so a good result for Sauber. So ideal for us. And we get driver of the day as well, so good news for us. And we're up into P4 still. Leclerc P5, so we're fairly close in the Drivers' Championship. Hamilton down to P3, so both the Red Bulls up there, leading the way by quite a bit. Ferrari now go up to P4 despite having another car fail on them, but they really should be further up than that. But that is the constructors. Renault getting some points with Hulkenberg doing well again. Haas, McLaren, Toro Rosso struggling. But that is going to be the end of the episode there, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Azerbaijan should be up in 2 days' time, but that's going to be the end of the episode. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Like and subscribe. Cheers.